Brexit Britain is broken Britain. This week, a Canadian audience were entertained by our former Bank of England Governor, Mark Carney, who was in office throughout the Brexit referendum and just steadied the economy after that disastrous vote. But it was interesting what he had to say, as it's firmly accepted that Brexit has broken Britain and that the rallying cries of the Brexiteers have stolen the future of our young. And the promise was Singapore on Thames, and we have actually been delivered to Argentina on the Channel. Have a listen.
Some right-wing populists that see current anxieties as an opportunity to stoke anger because anger is what's necessary for their project. After all, people don't demolish things when they're positive or optimistic. I know this. I know this from my time in the UK, where for years the rallying cry of Brexiteers was broken Britain. And their solution to take back control was actually code for tear down your future. So while Brexiteers promised that they were going to create Singapore on the Thames, the Truss government actually delivered Argentina on the Channel. Broken Britain. Does that sound familiar? When politicians claim our great democracies are broken, it's not because they want to fix them. It's because they want a license to demolish. And it's a model that's been used time and time again. Create an external constraint to starve the beast of government in a misguided view that slashing will lead to growing. Starving the beast was Pierre Poilievre's reflexive response to COVID. He saw a humanitarian catastrophe, and that's what it was, a catastrophe as another chance to slash spending and cut taxes. And remember that. When he shouts, "Axe the tax," he's really whispering, "Can the plan," and leaving us with nothing. Demolition is not a plan. And slogans, denials, and defeatism won't make our businesses more competitive, and they won't grow jobs at home.
Not only that, Kemi Badenoch, the Business and Trade Secretary, was at the CBI dinner this week. And whilst she is a Brexiteer, she's always supported Brexit, she blamed David Cameron for not having a Brexit plan. Now, this is really very fascinating because we've got a future leader, or wannabe leader, Kemi Badenoch, talking to business, and we all know that business mostly are furious with Brexit because it's getting in the way of business being able to flourish with trade barriers and labour shortages and red tape, costly red tape, and it's only increasing now these new checks are coming in. And there she is talking to business people, and she decides to reach for something to blame, and she decided to blame one of her current cabinet colleagues who was the Prime Minister when Brexit happened. And not that I like to agree with Kemi Badenoch, I kind of can't help but agree with her because she's right. You know, Cameron didn't have a plan. Was the plan to have no plan? Was the plan to deliver absolute chaos? Was David Cameron ever a Remainer? Well, I mean, what is a Remainer? What is a Brexiteer? We've got a Brexiteer, Kemi Badenoch, attacking a Remainer, supposedly, for not having a plan for Brexit.
In 2005, all of the major political parties promised a referendum on the European Constitution. Why does this matter? Why do we need a referendum, and why do we need one now? First, why this matters. The European Constitution, now called the Lisbon Treaty, includes a massive transfer of powers from the nation states of Europe to Brussels. It ends our veto, our right to say no, in about 60 areas. It sets up a permanent president of the European Union, a foreign minister, a diplomatic service. It gives the European Union the right to sign treaties and to pass new treaties, new constitutions, without asking us again, the people of Europe. Why do we need a referendum? Well, I think when our Parliament is giving up powers, is passing powers to someone else, they should ask us first, the people, in a referendum. So you can use June the 4th, this Thursday, the European elections, to demand a referendum from Gordon Brown. The referendum he promised, along with everyone else, back in 2005. The best way to get that referendum is to vote Conservative. Don't you think all of us should have a say in the referendum?
So much was wrong with the 2016 vote, including the fact that European citizens living here, millions of them, couldn't vote, and yet Commonwealth visitors could, was totally unfair. And holding it on the weekend of Glastonbury definitely meant that most of the young people were too busy to actually go to the polling booth and vote in Brexit. We should have had another vote. There is a case with the ECHR. There hasn't been any reporting on it recently. I guess it's waiting to be heard. And let's see what that turns up. But it does offer some hope. So is Carney right? Is the plan of the right wing just to deliver chaos? And was Brexit always a vehicle to deliver carnage? And certainly it's been successful. If you want chaos, it certainly is being successful, and it's got a lot more harm to do yet as the new Brexit checks come in next week. I mean, they're not checks, they're actually a tax. They're a tax for imports, but there's not going to be any checks. So they're going to charge people for bringing food that we need. We rely on Europe to feed us. They provide, nearly all of our food, whether it's in, inputs that us farmers use, or also just fruit and vegetables and lots of other products that we eat which are European. They're going to tax that. Rishi Sunak's going to half inflation, he said, as he promised, but he's now doing things to ensure that inflation rockets again and your food costs go up. And not only that, food is going to become not as varied and shorter in supply. We've had terrible flooding here in the last 6 months, and that's actually meant that food is shorter in supply in Britain as well at the same time. So let's just sit back and analyse what they're doing with Brexit, everything else. They are making very bad decisions, incredibly bad decisions, and an election is coming, and we have to try and make a good decision for Britain, the people. It's in our hands. And so we have to try and find the best person to vote for. And I have decided to meet the candidates who are standing in my constituency. And I have made a decision based on those candidates. I think everybody needs to do this. Instead of saying everybody's useless and that all politicians are bad, that is not a good place to be. We have to be responsible citizens and vote for hope. I think hope is resting on getting rid of the current crop of MPs. There might be some good Conservative MPs in there who are willing and hoping to hang on. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there may be one or two. But really, that is what we all have to do, because we don't elect the Prime Minister, we elect MPs. And so it's important that we all look at our constituency, and some of them have been redrawn. Mine is a new constituency. And you look at who the candidates are. You can reach out to them now. Most of them have been selected. You can contact them and go along to any events that they're actually attending, and get to know them, and you can email them and ask them questions, or ask them questions on social media. And I strongly recommend that you do that. In some constituencies, they are holding these things called primaries, which I think are a really good idea, in that because our elections are so short, they're actually doing kind of like little mini elections of the candidates' hustings, so that locals can decide who the most suitable progressive candidate is to stand against the Conservatives. I mean, this is all because of first past the post being totally unfair and undemocratic, trying to stop the vote being split. You know, that it is worth looking into that if you've got one coming up in your area. I certainly know there is one in East Wiltshire where Danny Kruger currently sits. He's a particularly right-wing MP who believes that women don't have a right to bodily autonomy, and I hope that every woman and every man who understands why that is abhorrent votes to get rid of Danny Kruger. We don't need Danny Kruger coming back after the election. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the clips today and my blurb, and do comment below, and don't forget to subscribe and share this video.